Hello and welcome to the Keep It Local Maine podcast, where we tell the stories of local business owners and Maine residents and learn more about what they do, who and what inspires them, their challenges, successes, and more.
My name is Kimberly Rigolinski.
And I'm Todd Rigolinski.
And we are the publishers of Keep It Local Maine, a local magazine that helps to showcase local businesses to the people in and around their communities. Thank you for tuning in to our weekly podcast that you can subscribe to on Podbean, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. You can learn more about us at keepitlocalmaine.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram through the links in the show notes.
Our guest this week is songwriter, producer, multi-instrumentalist, and podcaster Spencer Albee. He was the keyboard player for Maine's own Rustic Overtones before releasing his debut album, Frankenstein Presents the Popsicko Volume 1, in 2000. Since then, he's had several musical projects like Rocktopus, As Fast As, Spencer and the School Spirit Mafia, Space vs. Speed, and his current collaboration called Bell Systems. And all that in addition to recording on his own. He is the creative host behind the yearly Beatles Night in Portland with an all-star band, and Rolling Stone magazine has referred to him as a 21st century master in the lost art of Beatlesque hooks. Oh, and he also hosts a weekly podcast called Spencer and Zack Explore the Universe with fellow musician and one of our previous guests, Zack Jones. This is actually part 2 of our conversation with Spencer. If you'd like to find part 1, be sure to look back through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Podbean. And now, please enjoy part 2.
Remember when that Bob Marley Legend compilation came out in the 90s?
Yeah.
Like the album that everyone has a copy of?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just like...
It was like the 90s Frampton Comes Alive. Like somehow
yeah.
everybody has a copy of it, and no one knows where it came from.
Yeah, that's right. Talk about a greatest hits, right? Like one of the greatest hits, and the version of No Woman No Cry on that album is live, and it's I think it was recorded at the Roxy in Los Angeles, if I have my facts right. But my favorite part of that is they play, and they just sound incredible. They're just in it. They're playing great, they're sounding great, and then all of a sudden there's just like this little bit of feedback, and you can hear the sound guy like take it away. It's like, oh yeah, this is live. My band sucks. You know?
Yeah. I forgot about that one. Yes, I remember hearing that now. Because in college you heard that every dorm room that you walk past. It was either that or Dave Matthews Band. And there's one of the two.
Or for at least in my dorm, it was that Maceo Parker's live on Planet Groove.
Oh my gosh,
that was a big one.
Oh,
and that was kind of like, I knew who James Brown was, but that Maceo Parker album was like really my introduction into the James Brown universe, the extended universe. You know, and getting past just like, I think at that point I had Star Time or something like that box set. It's actually funny that's also true for the Talking Heads and the Police. Although the Police, when they put out their box set, it was called Message in a Box.
Oh, very clever,
very
Sting.
clever,
very clever,
Mr. Sting. And but they put the albums in order, uninterrupted. But with the Talking Heads, I had a collection called Sand and the Vaseline, which was like not like a greatest hits because they had some deep cuts on there, but also Star Time. It was like, you know, kind of like taken out of context, you know, kind of nitpicked. So it's kind of nice to like, I know the Police catalog top to bottom because that's how it was presented to me. And it's only like, I still haven't listened to all of the Talking Heads albums, which is not because I'm trying to be a dum-dum, but like because I also have this thing where I save things that I know are going to be nice. Like for instance, up until last year, right around this time last year, I had not seen The Godfather 1 and 2. And everyone's like, what? You got to watch it? Yeah, exactly. That's the reaction. It's like, I know they're great. I know they're going to be great. Like, it's not like I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm just holding on to it because, like, you know, you don't want to listen to and watch like all the incredible stuff at once. Like, you know, like just save a couple bites for the end of the meal, you know?
That's so cool.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a good way to look at it.
It's not like I'm like catching the Godfather wave, you know? It's like, it's been out for a minute. Yeah. The same with Radiohead in Rainbows. I bought it when it came out, and I cannot tell you why. I have no good reason for not having listened to it, but I didn't until last year. It was last year I finally listened to it. It's like, yep, that is great. People are right.
That's awesome.
They weren't kidding.
I will actually do that sometimes with. I like to go shopping for vinyl, and I'll do the same thing where I'll buy stuff. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be incredible, and then I'll forget to. But most of the time, I forget to listen to it.
Sure.
And then it just gets put on the shelf.
Sure.
And then months later, I'm like, oh, hey, I have that. I
Mm-hmm.
should really listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you
I'm
saved
glad
yourself
I'm
a
not
little
the only
treat. It's like you bought a candy bar and put it in the glove box, you know?
Yeah. Or you find that $10 bill in your winter coat. You're like, ooh, sweet.
Yeah.
I found so much money one time in one of my pockets. So indulge me here.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend at the time and I had just, we just paid rent and all the bills, and that left us with roughly no money.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, and it's Friday night. We're like, At the time, I was bartending. I should mention that I was bartending at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Like, money be damned. Let's just go out. We'll go out, and I think we cobbled together. It's like, looks like we can buy 4 cheap beers with tip. So let's just go out and do that. Like let's just go have a couple drinks and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to go big, get really dressed up. And so she put on her good looking dress and all that, and I put on a tie, my vest, and grabbed my suit jacket and put it on, and I tapped my breast pockets like, oh, what's that? Like, oh, it's $250.
That's awesome.
It was amazing. I even
so
think
awesome.
that just because of that spirit, we're like, let's go out anyway. I was like, let's go to 4th Street. We just went for it. Like we were already, we ended up having a fantastic night.
That's so great.
The budget expanded drastically.
Oh,
Yeah.
unbelievably. Now we could buy 210 cheap beers. Which is too many.
Just a couple. I mean,
Only by 200.
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah.
I love it when stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It has not
Doesn't happen
happened
often enough.
Yeah, no, not enough.
Is there something that you'd like to tell me, Kimberly?
Well, it's also like why didn't what kind of accounting was I doing at that time in my life where I didn't I was like, oh, $250 is just like I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or I forget
weird
that I
how-
have it.
Yeah, things just kind of disappear into a black hole sometimes. That's what I tell myself to kind of make myself feel better.
Okay. You go with that then.
I will.
So do you have a different approach for the artistic and the business side of music? If so, how do you reconcile those two?
Oh, God. I recognize that I'm a bit of a rare bird in that I'm a bit of a Swiss Army knife,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm simultaneously grateful for it, and I'm also kind of like, ugh, like I wish I was just a keyboard player or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say though, when I am making music, I am not thinking about where it goes. I am just making it. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to be a single for this station or something. It's just not how. That's
Mhm.
not how I approach it. And then once it's done, I almost view that as like kind of a creative puzzle. Like, okay, where do you put this? Like, how can you kind of creatively like get it out to people? But mainly, I prefer to work with managers who can help get that word out there because it's hard to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And also, like, who wants to sell themselves? Like, hi, yeah, it's my new record made by me.
Yeah.
Right.
You're gonna love this. We really think you should check it out. Like what? Nah, I don't want to do that. But
Yeah, it's very rare the artists, musicians who can kind of do both of those things and
It
do
is.
them with some sort of like non-smarmy sort of air about them,
totally,
I-
totally.
Yeah.
The self-starter can be a little exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why so many musicians end up, funding mink farms and stuff that go under brilliantly.
Yeah.
Managers wind up with all the money.
Yeah.
The Billy Joel effect, as I like to call it.
Yeah. The BJE.
Yeah. Oof. You got to stay away from that. It's bad news.
Mhm.
So where did you get or how did the idea for selling I Love Dr. Shaw masks and merchandise come from to benefit the Maine Music Alliance?
I'm sorry, it cut out a little bit there. Could you hit me with that question again?
Yeah, where did the idea for selling all of the I Love Dr. Shaw merch come from?
My brain. Yes, I listened.
Right on. Fair enough.
I listened to Dr. Shaw's show
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I think that he is a very special person who can deliver consistently terrible news in a way that you'd think listening to Dr. Shaw's report would instill panic. It's like, oh no, the numbers, but it's like he gives you perspective, what that means,
Mm.
And I was thinking of, but I Heart Dr. Shaw shirt. And then, as fate would have it, my friend Nicole Wolf, who's a great photographer, had taken photographs of Dr. Shaw and wearing the masks that said kindness. One said science, and another one said, I don't know, don't be an idiot, wear a mask. I don't know what it said. So I approached her because I had the idea, but then it's like, okay, how do I get it onto a t-shirt?
Right.
Yeah. And make it work. And then I reached out I got her permission. She's into it, totally, like raise some money. And I reached out to Walter Craven, who Maine music people might recognize his name. He was in a band called 6 Gig for a long time. Good's Thumb before that. Lost on Liftoff. He's just a great person, period. He's also a tremendous musician and graphic designer. And so Walter was able to render Nicole's photograph into like for lack of a better term, like a cartoon image.
So cool.
And that's that.
Cool. That's great that's benefiting Maine Music Alliance. And,
yeah, that's great.
Obviously, an issue that would be close to your heart.
Yeah, I'd like to have. It'd be nice to have somewhere to work after all this.
It'd be nice to be able to go see some shows at some place.
Absolutely.
I can't even think about it.
Yeah, I prefer not to.
So far, it's still so far away.
Yeah.
So, how did you decide to start your own podcast? Like, how did that come up?
I kicked the tires on doing a TV show. And then I was like, I don't want to be on a TV show. And then it was like, there's a certain point where it's like, I'll start a podcast. And I was like, everyone's doing a podcast. And then it was like, wait a minute, everyone's doing a podcast. I can do one. It's not,
Amazing how you spun that right around.
Yeah, like what is like, it's almost like what seemed like taboo to be like, oh, you have a podcast too. And I was like, where's your podcast? Like, I don't have, I should have one.
Yeah.
Then just like talking to people. I love an interesting discussion. And I love when people can make each other laugh. I think it's just the best.
Yeah, for sure.
And I finally heard some podcasts that weren't taking themselves too seriously. And notably Conan's podcast. I'm a big fan of that one. I was like, oh yes, like podcasts can be just fun. They don't have to be like pretentious, like audio plays. And so that was kind of it. Once I saw that it could just not be like boring people talking. I'm not saying, who knows, maybe my podcast is super boring. I don't know.
Well, I think it all depends on the listener, and that's why you kind of just have to understand a lot. I think a lot like music, like you just have to understand what your audience is and what your audience isn't.
Yeah, I kind of let the product determine that. It's like it's not up to me to like be like, oh, this is what my audience will like. I don't follow trend. You know what I mean? Like maybe I should. Maybe I'd be more like successful or whatever if I did that. But I just let it is what it is, and if people find it, they find it, and if they don't, that's cool too.
Right.
But like, but there's nothing. Yeah, if you follow yourself and your own instincts, and you're right, then that's a win. If you follow your own instincts and you're wrong, well, at least you did it on your own terms. But if you go with what you think people want, and you are successful, even though it's contrived, that's one form of living hell, because you're doing this thing that's not you, right? And if you go against your own gut and you're wrong, then you're like, well, why did I do that? I knew it wasn't right. So really the only way to go is just go with your gut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Was it Jim Carrey said that you could still fail doing what you hate?
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well fail doing something that you love.
Yeah.
I actually think that was Albert Einstein.
Was it? Okay.
No.
I always get the two confused anyways.
I'm doing like
both hilarious.
the internet meme quote thing.
Yes.
You know.
For a second, I thought you were serious. I'm like, well, maybe he is right. I don't know.
I don't really know.
I didn't research that one. I should have. This is where we need a producer, like all the really big podcasts. Where, hey, can you look that up for me?
Yeah, that's right.
Someday.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can just sit here and lie all day.
Ask you, and this is a quote that I'm pretty sure I do have right. So I'm going to stand behind this one, even if you dispute it.
Sure.
But this is a comment. This is a quote that I just kind of always take to heart. But Joe Strummer once said, "No input, no output." How do you feed your creativity?
Well, firstly, that's Elvis Costello, and how do I? I'm just kidding. It's Candace Bergen, but
I almost spit my water out.
I tend to listen to what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
like just take in other media, take in other perspectives, go for walks, think about things. I'm also like, I deliberately tried to write, like I had an ex-girlfriend who, when listening to one of my records, which was a newer one at the time, and it was kind of like post our relationship, she said, like, all your records are kind of the same, huh? I was like, ow. But then I listened, I was like, oh, they're right. Like, I'm always singing about, like, man, why did you hurt my feelings? Why'd you leave me? Like the zero accountability. It's like, this album and probably most moving down the road will be like from the perspective of like, like, okay, well, if the situation is shit, let's just assume that I'm the idiot in the situation, and take it from there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, just like trying to change perspectives and just try to do things differently, write on different instruments. I remember I read a Paul McCartney quote, or maybe it was Bob Odenkirk, I'm not sure, where he said that he didn't write on bass because it's hard to write on bass. And that made me like, I'm going to try to write on bass. And I'm not going to say I'm successtal because, he's Paul McCartney. What do I know? But I was able to write songs on bass, whether they're great or not. So I don't know, just trying to constantly change that perspective and the approach,
Right.
Don't just, I tend not to write on keyboards that often because I've been playing keyboards long enough that I have tricks. Do you know what I mean? And so I end up like leaning into like my keyboard tricks. So that's why I'll often like write on an instrument that I'm a little more uncomfortable on because I have to work hard for every, change or.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Like it has to be super deliberate.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that really does.
Thanks.
So who would you say inspires you? Who or what inspires you, whether it's personally or professionally? Who inspires you?
Stumped him.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of. I'm inspired by a lot of great musicians. I've obviously mentioned Paul McCartney; he's a big one for me. Prince, Beck, David Bowie, and then just like my colleagues. I am fortunate to have a handful of bandmates or just fellow musicians that not only are they my buddies because we're in the same town, but I also really like what they do. And so I'll look to them for inspiration as well. Because like, when you see your friends do something, it's always cool when you have like your friend does something and you can hear it, look at it, whatever, admire it and be like, I almost forget that we're friends. Like you're just like, so you made this really amazing thing. And like, I actually know you. That's crazy.
That's so cool. And it sounds like, definitely just from an inspiration standpoint, you had a lot of inspiration just even from family growing up, just getting started in music.
Oh, yeah. My parents couldn't have been more supportive. And the older I get, the more I realize that. I knew it at the time. Like they're very like, I just remember like my dad saved me his baseball glove. Like when he was like, my dad's like the 50s dad. You know what I mean? And yeah, saved me his OG baseball glove because he played baseball when he was a kid. and he's a righty, and I come out lefty. He's like, all right, so he gets me my own baseball glove, and then, there I am in the outfield, caught a pop fly in the face because I was literally in the outfield picking daisies. And I was like picking a flower, like, is that pretty? And it cracked, like, oh, look up, like, what? Boink. And I could just see my dad be like, like he didn't know, like, at that point, like, that's like, I don't know if that's not the all-American 1950s dad, like, throw the ball with my son, and I was unable to provide him with that. But the second I took a shine to anything, they got right behind it. In fact, the best thing I ever did, including if I had a choice between this program and having gone to music school, I would still choose this program because I think I'd still be where I'm at now. And without that program, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. It's called Odyssey of the Mind. It used to be called Olympics of the Mind.
Yeah, I remember that.
So when I was in middle school, we had the good fortune of having some really, really tremendously good teachers. Like I found out after the fact that, my friend James McAdams' parents were, I don't want to like talk about their family business, but like they were able, they lived a very modest life, but they were, because of a family trust type situation, they were able to, all of the people in that family were able to go get really good educations, right? And they, as I said, they lived very modestly. I had no idea that this trust situation like even existed until like my late 20s. I was talking with James in a parking lot in Arizona, like drinking a beer out of a bag. I was like, what? But it made everything make sense because they actually dedicated their lives to, they could have been doing nothing, but they dedicated their lives to public education. And
so cool.
Yeah, so they took their privilege and turned it into progress. And I found out way after the fact, like for instance, my second grade teacher, Vic D'Ambrosio, was actually on sabbatical from Harvard. Wow. Because the McAdams like were like, hey, you should come over here. Like, you want a break? Like, we're really trying to like spice up this situation. So we just had access to like, I was like a, pretty active minded kid, which AKA pain in the ass for the rest of the class. Cause I would just, but they were able to like, they had the resources to yank me out of class and put me over here. Like, okay, why don't you build an engine, like an electric motor out of cork and wire over here, and like let the rest of the kids like actually learn something rather than listening to you prattle on. So I was lucky in that regard. And then, so as I got into middle school, I joined an OM team, and we did 1 year and did pretty well. And then the next year, we went to the state finals, which I believe was in Blue Hill, Maine. And then the third year, we went to, and that was the final year I did it. We went to the world finals, and that's the first time I ever met, kids from Russia and China. Like this is during the Cold War still, it's not over yet. Right. And, it was an amazing experience, but that program, basically it's problem solving. So you have, they hand you a problem. It's like this packet. You have to do X, Y, and Z in this period of time. You have to hit all these different markers. These are your limitations. You can't do this, and you have to spend less than $75 making it happen. They had like an engineering one. They had more of a theatrical one. That's the one that I lean towards because of music and stuff. So that program alone put me in a great space to live life. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know how I got down that rabbit hole. But yeah,
just inspiration. That just sounds like it was just life-changing.
Yeah, it was. I kind of wish I could do it now. I wish there was like a grown-up version of that that wasn't like, actually like living your life and like trying to survive.
Yeah. Actually, COVID pretty much is just a big OM exercise now that I think about it.
Is it?
Now I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, COVID's, I don't like it.
No, I'm not a fan.
No.
So how do you define success? Either personally, artistically, or just in life in general?
Yeah. Being happy and having a sense of purpose. I mean, the rest of it's all, you can have all the money in the world and not be happy, right? And you can have no money and be super happy. I think it's just if you are if you are satisfied, comfortable in your own skin, you're doing things that you enjoy,
Right.
then you've made it.
Yeah.
You know. That said, if you can
Absolutely.
have all that stuff and a bunch of money, that's not so bad either.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't necessarily turn it down.
I could be.
Yeah.
Let's just say, like, I'm a happy person and I'm very pleased with my life, and but I could be a little more successful. I wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't mind giving that way a try too. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Just a little more successful wouldn't be bad.
yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Just having purpose. That is
Yeah.
just, it really is. It's huge.
Yeah, without purpose, what is it?
What's
you know?
yeah, exactly. So so we always like to bring it back to Maine, bring it back to home here.
Uh-huh.
And so what would you say is your favorite, some of the things that you love about Maine? What's your favorite thing about Maine?
I like how measured and kind of balanced Maine is. I think there's a genuine quality to Maine. And maybe that's just because I'm from here, but the state motto, like, I lead, deer go, right? There's also that famous Pee Wee Herman quote, as Maine goes, so does the nation, right? So, and I kind of do believe in that. I think that we are a really good cross section of people from Maine. Don't seem to want to put up with too much BS, you know. And if it's like shallow and dumb, like, Mainers are like, eye roll, you know. And I think we have a lot of people existing within the Portland bubble who haven't been quite exposed to that yet. And, you know, I always look forward to those folks, like, you know, going to, like, I don't know, like, just Freeport, just, you know, or anywhere like outside of city limits. You're like, oh, I'm full of shit. Oh, well, it's good. It's good to know when you're full of crap, you know. But I think that Maine, like, kind of has, you could have this certain belief system that's like, this is what I believe, and I'm over here. But then if you saw, like, a rule that, like, popped up that was, like, you know, made it harder for somebody else to live their life, I feel like the average Mainer would vote against that thing that would hurt other people. If not, just because they would say, well, I wouldn't want somebody telling me I can't be myself, you know. And there's, like, at least a little bit of respect there, even if they don't agree with it. I mean, maybe there's not quite enough of that, but I think that we have more of that here in our state than I've seen in any other part of the country in my travels. And plus, gosh, isn't it just lovely here?
Yes.
My God.
As we're looking out the window and watching
snow.
the snow fall, just more and more and more.
It's insane how much snow is coming down. Like, we're gonna end up with, like, I thought we were gonna get, like, it said like 6 to 12. I'm like, okay, probably 5. Like, no, I think we might end up with a solid 15 to 20 inches here.
Yeah.
Oh
I had
my
to go.
gosh.
I've gone out a couple times, and I'm still surprised. I'm like, seriously? I just shoveled this.
I just did this. Yeah, exactly.
Is somebody shoveling into where I'm shoveling?
Yep.
Well, thank you, Spencer, so much
this has
for
been
taking
great.
time out of your day, for talking to us, and for correcting all of my misquotes. It's always good to have someone whose knowledge of quotations is encyclopedic to be able to help me out.
Yeah, it's a gift.
And we will make sure that we have links to all of your social media and website, and especially where to buy the new album, because it is really good. And we wish you all the success and the best with that. And thank you once again just for taking time and talking with us.
Well, thank
yes,
you.
thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me.